anyone who doesn't, I think you all know, except for maybe Tamara, there's a Facebook group that corresponds to this class. So let me do this. Let me grab the link to it. Wealth. So for anybody, if you're not already a member of the Facebook group, you can go here. I'm going to put the link in the chat. That is the link to our Facebook group. Just go on there and request to be added, and I'll add you within a day or two, usually like within an hour or two. Okay, so a couple of things that hopefully we're all in the habit of doing now. And by the way, in the Facebook group, there's a section for files up at the top in the Facebook group. It'll say files. Inside there's a few templates for calculating your net worth. There's a simple version and a more complicated version. There you go, Tamara. You're in, Tamara. You're in the club. There's a couple different versions for calculating your net worth in there. I'm going to start a new one because it's labeled 1 through 12. So I'm going to start with a new one for January. The other habit is is figuring out where your money is incoming and exporting, right? So figuring out what your income is and what your expenses are each month. You don't have to tabulate it, but just figure out, in general, how much are you pulling in and expending each month. And then from there, we've started talking about investing, and we talked about the mindset of an investor, right? Which the mindset of an investor is not about, you're not looking to improve your quality of life now. It's all about trying to save up as much money as you can so that you can invest every dollar you can spare, because we know that that's how you make wealth. And what we're looking for is not necessarily to drive a Porsche just to work. It's about building generational wealth, enough money that you can then decide to quit your job if you want to at any time, and have enough money coming in from passive income that if you wanted to, you could just live off of your passive income. That is the quote goal. That's the definition of wealth by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan, is having enough money so that you can do what you want, when you want it. And you don't have to work if you don't want to at the job you have. Now you can still work because it's for fun and to make more money, but if you wanted to, you could quit tomorrow and you'd be just fine, right? So that's having enough money, having enough passive income to generate that. That's the definition of wealth. That's what we're talking about. Everything we do in this class is all about aiming towards that. And we talked a lot about different forms of investing, stocks and bonds. We talked about the path of money. For those of you who haven't read it, I highly recommend going back and reading it. By the way, I will also tell you that there's an audiobook version of this book, and that's what I've been listening to on my way to work, and it's cool. So, and then lastly, we start talking about investing in real estate and why there's so many advantages, especially for us who work in real estate, for investing in real estate versus any of the other investment vehicles. First of all, because if you do this job, and by the way, I mentioned to these guys, one of the quotes that I hear often from people who have been in this industry for a long time, who are very, very, very successful, is that if you do this job right, this was the advice they gave me. They said, if you do this job right, even if you're very, very successful as an agent, you will end up making far more money investing in real estate than you actually will from helping people buy and sell homes. It just works that way. I found that to be really helpful and something that I am aiming towards myself. Okay, so that's kind of, I wouldn't say brings us up to speed, but it brings us up to speed enough to kind of continue where we left off. So let's talk about, by the way, before we jump in, so today we're going to talk about the lead generation model. And one last thing I want to say as a concept for all of us is that, yeah, sure, I'm like a moderator and an MC, but this is not a class that I am teaching you. This is not like you guys show up and, listen to this while you're washing dishes or whatever. Ideally, I mean, hey, if you have to one day or whatever, that's cool. But we're trying to become an investor group, and we're all going to bring stuff to the table, right? So we're a joint group. I'm moderating it, and I'll kind of shuffle things around. I'll keep everything running smooth. But the idea is that we all work together to help each other out in our investing goals. Yeah, that's the concept. This is not a class. This is an investor study group, I like to call it. It's like, you know, we're all studying this course of investing, and we're all like in a study group together, sharing lessons learned. So we have a new guest here, Ritu, I think it is. How you doing, Ritu? Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, how are you?
Welcome to our investor study group here. I just finished explaining here for the last 15 minutes kind of what this group is all about. So I will also tell you, this call is recorded though, so you can go back and listen to the first 15 minutes, because we're going to start pushing on to new material from here. But I just wanted to point out that you may want to listen to the last 15 minutes or so when it's recorded. Okay, so.
Yeah, I'm driving right now, so I'm listening on the side.
Okay, no worries, Ritu.
Okay.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about the lead generation model, which starts on page 171 of So Said book. Anybody read through this already? What am I dealing with here? Is everybody just like, what the hell are you talking about? I've been in holiday land. Or are you guys like, oh my God, I can't wait to talk about this because I've got a bunch of ahas and stuff that I want to bring up?
I've been in holiday land.
Tamara's, you're here for your first time, so you get a pass.
Thank you. Thank you.
And by the way, is it Tamara or Tamara?
Tamara.
Tamara. Oh,
Unless you're.
I asked, right?
Yeah.
I was wrong with both tries. So Tamara. Tamara.
Tamara.
Got it. Okay, cool. Anybody else? Has anybody else read this chapter? Anybody else know what I'm talking about? All right. Well, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you a couple of bullet points. I'm not going to teach the stuff. But hopefully you guys have the book. Look on page 172. There's I should download they have it where you can download all the figures, the diagrams and from this book, so you can kind of walk through it when you're doing these Zoom classes. The lead generation model that we're talking about. Okay, hold on a second. Let me go back a second because I want to point something out.
Which book is that? Can you show me the cover, please?
Millionaire Real Estate Investor.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Not to be confused with Millionaire Real Estate Agent. So before we go into the lead generation model, let me back up 1 second. And as a reminder, in this book, we're going to learn 5 models. The net worth model, which we've already talked about. The financial model, which we've already talked about. The network model, which we've already talked about. And today we're talking about the lead generation model, and then we're going to talk about the acquisition model. All right, so I'm just going to give you a couple of bullet points. With regards to the lead generation model, Gary says when we start looking at buying property, about investing in real estate, we got to ask ourselves 4 questions. What am I looking for, right? Which means location, type, economic conditions, the condition of the property, the particular construction, features of the property, amenities of the property. This is all from page 173, in case you're wondering. But those are the first questions. What am I looking for specifically? Question number 2, and by the way, in the first category, in that first question, there's going to be there's 2 kinds of criteria. What will you consider and what will you buy? What will you consider means things that give you a red flag where you're like, oh, I better check this property out and dive into it and do some research. After you do some research, you may decide like, oh, after doing the research, no, this does not meet my this is not something I'm wanting to buy. or you may decide like, oh yeah, this has got the green light. But the first thing is just having a red flag that says, what are the criteria for things that I will even consider that I want to raise a flag that they raise my awareness. Okay, we're going to skip through all this. I don't recommend just taking my word for it. You should read through this or listen to the audiobook. There's some great worksheets on page 184 and page 187, which by the way, that's probably, hold on one second here. Because what we're going to do here in a second is I want you guys to tell me, what do you guys want to buy as a real estate investment? Even if you're not ready right now.
I want to buy income property so that I can have some passive income.
I love it. But hold on, we're not there quite yet. Oh, here it is. Cool. I'm going to post. Oh, this is awesome. Okay, hold on a second here. Let me download this. And I'll also, I'll post this. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, so I just put in the chat bar a checklist for what are you looking for. So if I realized this earlier, I would have had you guys shared this with you guys earlier and had you guys print it out and fill it out. But you can see on the sheet that I just shared there. Here, let me share it on the screen. This is the criteria worksheet that's from the book, right? So what location do you want to buy in, right? Country, state, county, city, neighborhood, street, lot. What type of property, right? Single, are we talking single family? Are we talking multifamily? Economics, right? What's the price range, obviously, but maybe what kind of discount will you only accept? There's more about that in the reading. You should read through it. Cash flow, does the property you buy need to have a certain amount of cash flow? What is the appreciation that you expect to get from that particular property, right? And then he goes into condition, right? Is this like a tear down or is this like move-in ready? What is the construction, right? In the audiobook, they talk about a particular investor he knows that only buys brick homes. They do not buy stucco or wood siding or anything else because they know that brick siding sells really well in their area and that it's very easy to maintain. So what construction are you looking for? For all kinds of, what kind of foundation, what kind of walls, all that kind of stuff. The features, right? Do you need to have a certain amount of parking? Does it need to have a laundry room? And then what are the amenities? Is there a fireplace, pool, hot tub, satellite dish, whatever the heck you're wanting to do? You want to be thinking about these things and have this filled out so that you know what you're looking for, right? So having said that, let's just hang out there. Let's just hang out here for a while. Does anybody have an idea? Like, can we fill this out for anybody? Is anybody looking for something right now and you want to go over what you're looking for?
Is this just for residential or commercial also?
Chiefly residential, but I mean, we could do a commercial as well.
I would be looking for small strip centers.
Oh, interesting. Right on. That's something I don't have much experience with, but you'd want to, know exactly what you're getting into, right? So
yeah. Or second, if it was residential, I would look for duplexes.
All right. So Tamara, let's do this. Let's dive into a bit. So do you know what is it? Are you only looking in California?
No, I would look not in California.
Oh, now we're talking. Anybody who's on this call knows I'm not a big fan of investing in California.
Yeah.
In fact, I had someone here from the Las Vegas area here last month talking to us about investing outside of Vegas. And what was the name of the town? The suburb of Vegas. I forgot the name of it right now.
Henderson.
Yeah, Henderson, Nevada. That's right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Otherwise, I would do a small town somewhere in California if I had to do California. But like you, ideally, I probably wouldn't.
so Tamara, do you know what states that you would prefer to buy in? Your particular state?
I like the South, South Carolina, North Carolina, the Midwest, maybe Missouri, Oklahoma City. Just
Sure.
off the top of my head.
So, you could start to investigate these, maybe meet a realtor and, pick out a handful of these towns that you might like. Find some local realtors there. I would start with realtors. That's where I always start, and just start to find out what are the neighborhoods, what are the areas there, and just start calculating some numbers. We have a worksheet that we use to calculate investments, and we try to go through at least one every week we meet up. So maybe at some point here we'll look at one. But again, those worksheets are available on the Facebook group under the form section. Anybody else? I know Ray, you've been looking at some property, right? Or David, you guys want to talk about what you're looking for?
Not currently for me. The case study that we did, the property analysis we did a couple months ago, I know that we looked at that.
Yeah.
But no, for myself currently, no. David?
Not in California for sure. Yeah, I'm looking elsewhere. I'm looking in any other state that the landlord laws are different than what it is here.
Yeah.
So, and I heard that in Seattle, or Washington, there was one politician that they were trying to get the owners of the building make the tenants the part owners.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh,
So you just need to be very careful. The political things is changing, and you got to be very careful. Not only is one of the biggest factor right now in real estate. So you need to make sure that you are protecting yourself, not going to a place that will not be into your favor.
Yeah.
That was in Seattle, you said?
Seattle.
Seattle?
Anybody else want to talk about what they're looking for? Like, so we can try to get specific about this? Well, here, because I mean, I know what I'm looking for, and I can go through it if you guys want, but I'd rather hear from one of you guys, and we can go through this worksheet, and you can kind of tell us what you're looking. So all right, how about this for homework for next week? The form that I just put here, I want everyone to fill this out for one place, that one kind of property that you're looking for in one specific place, in one specific neighborhood, as detailed as you can get. All right. So again, this worksheet here that looks like this, I'm going to put it I put it in the chat bar already, but I'll put it on the Facebook page. So this form here, fill it out for what you're looking for. So, all right, fine. I'll go since no one else is getting specific about what they're looking for. Like, I'll tell you, I am looking for one of two things. I am looking for either a multifamily in the Redondo Beach, Torrance area that I could live in one of the units. Probably not going to happen, but I want to explore that. So here, let me fill that. Or I'm looking for a single family home in Henderson, Nevada. And that's probably going to be more likely what I end up buying this year. All right, so multifamily, and I'm talking like 2 to 4 unit property. All right, so location would be in LA County, either in Torrance, Redondo, whatever, someplace within 20 minutes driving distance of this office in Torrance. So that's the location. Nothing too close to the water. I don't want to pay for that. And zoning, I'm flexible to it. So that would be, again, 2 to 4 unit is what I'm looking for. Economics, I need it to, if I lived in one of the units, I would need it to that the finances would have to work out that I would need to contribute no more than $5,000 a month Otherwise, it's just not worth it. Then I'd rather do a different strategy. But if I could find a place where I could live in one of the units and pay $5,000 a month, then this might be something I did. So that would be, in essence, it would be cash flow where if one of the units was renting for 5,000, where it would break even, right? So that's what cash flow would be. Or if only 3 of the units are rented, it would be minus $5,000 cash flows. I guess technically how it would work out in our spreadsheet. I'm not sure what, I need to talk to a lender to find out what the current interest rates having just changed, what that means in, as far as price range. It also depends on what the current units are renting out at. Condition, I would need it to be not minor cosmetic is fine. Major cosmetic, probably not, definitely nothing major beyond that. Construction, I don't know. I'm always concerned about wiring and I'm always concerned about plumbing, especially like the main line. I don't know what else to say about that. AC is a big plus, or at least having ductwork so that I could put AC in there. That's a good way to add value add.
Yeah.
Ed?
There are a few things here that's, when you're looking at a property, you need to make sure these few items are in good condition because they're very costly. The first thing is the foundation
Absolutely.
and the roof and the electrical. Plumbing, depending on what type of building you have, may or may not be a big deal. And also heating and AC. Foundation, roof, and electrical probably would be the, those 3 items you want to make sure is in good condition.
Yeah. I guess I'm sensitive to plumbing right now because an investor that I know quite well bought a 4-plex and he bought it like 2 years ago. The downstairs unit 3 times in a row with 2 different tenants, the plumbing backed up on them and flooded the whole downstairs, their unit with sewage. Just, I mean, as gross as you can get. And what ended up happening is they finally figured out that the main line underneath the slab was clogged and they had to get the tenant out. They had, well, the tenant moved out anyways. They had to tear up all, they had to drill out, carve out all the slab and follow the plumbing all along. And then, fix the plumbing, redo the cement slab. I mean, and meanwhile, it took them, I think it was like 2 months and they weren't getting any rent in the meantime from the 2 downstairs units. So it was a nightmare.
Wow.
So ever since then, I'm like, mental note, I got to make sure that doesn't happen to me. But that's not very common though, but just
Yeah.
I share it with you because that's a horror story that you should know about.
Yeah. When you have a property like that, you got to make sure on your insurance. There are some companies that they cover your sewer system, your main line. Some of them they cover the whole sewer line, and some of them they just cover whatever is damaged by clogging up.
Right.
So
Right.
you gotta look into that. If it's if you have insurance, make sure that you look into that and see if there's a coverage for that if anything happens.
Yeah. But I don't think the insurance would cover you for lost income in the meantime while you're doing the repairs, right?
Depends on what it is. If it's a landlord tenant policy, sometimes some policies, you see, every policy is different. That's why when people are shopping for the insurance, they just shop for the price, and that's not the way to do it. You gotta shop
Right.
for the coverage
Coverage is the key.
to see what kind of coverage you're gonna get. So that's the
Yeah.
most important thing.
Yeah. So great points there. So anyways, that gives you an idea of, one of the routes I'm looking at in investing before what I was saying. As far as features, I don't know. If I was going to live in one of the units, it would have to be at least 3-bedroom and it would have to be at least 2,000 square feet for that unit. So I don't know what that leaves me, but I'm going to explore that, see if it's a possibility. So there's an example of me doing one. How about anybody else? Is anybody else looking for anything? Have they decided kind of, even if you're not ready yet, and maybe it means like within a year or two, I just would love to hear what other people are looking for. Make it up if you haven't, if you don't have it already. You can always change it later. Just give me an idea of what you could look for.
Multifamilies, you know that, 24 or 32 units.
So Luis is looking for bigger, small, bigger multifamily. We're talking, 24, 36 units. Is that what you said?
Yeah, 32, I think. I'm looking at the Grant Cardone's, advice between 24, but his number is 32. 32 makes you make, it's a good cash flow. And I was looking at in Texas and Florida, but I think, I don't know how we can do that, but I think you add your expertise on 2 or 4 units, right? Your expertise is not in multifamily though.
Yeah, for sure. So you were checking it out in Texas, and did you calculate some of the numbers, like what they would look like?
You know what I learned more than looking at the numbers? I was looking at the location. I think today you have a lot of different ones. How Tamara said, like in California, if you get out of the city, you will find something always. But what I was looking in Texas, what happened is the more that you go out of the city, you get another different possibilities, and of course it's more affordable, in order to see the project, and I mean to afford the project, and that's what I was learning. But also you need to love the place, and I found places that you can get, you can do good business, but if you don't like it, and I found places, 1 to 10, like 6, 7, but I don't know. I mean, the cap rate it was good, but at the very end, they are not very nice locations. I think that is what's important. When I was just looking at the numbers, we're numbers people, but at the end, you have to think who's gonna live there, if there's a supermarket next to it, or things that we never think. We're just looking at the numbers all the time. And I think location and how far is from the freeway, I think those things are important. For example, in my building, it's a great building. Somebody had this building for 40 years. It's a 56, I think, units or 60. Ray came here one time. I invited him, his family to come here. And my point is this. These people are doing construction right now for 6 months. And the management is so bad that I pay so much money here, and they doing all this reconstruction. And sometimes you don't think about the tenants. That's my point. I understand this is about everything about numbers. I understand that, but I'm just giving you another point of view of, think about how those people are going to live in, what they need, because at the very end, if you want to do a major change or anything or fix something, it's about money, but also how that is going to impact the tenant, and I think that is major. So I was looking at a lot of places, in Texas, but they are far away from the city, and I don't know how you can manage that in a good way, because I saw the pictures and it's like the cap rate was like 6-7%, and later on it's a little creepy place, you know what I mean? Well, that's my whole thing.
By the way, we only got invited to this place one time. It's a nice ocean view, but I'm waiting for the next barbecue invite.
Man, they destroyed the pool. So I just want to tell you that they destroyed the pool. They said they're going to be fixed in 2 months. It's already 6 months. So that's what I'm telling you, I mean, I pay a huge amount of money in rent, but, and thank you for saying that, Ray, but honestly, I think it's important. Everybody's here is complaining, but when you want to do an investment, you have to think about that too, because if I want to invest and I buy a multifamily one day, let's say 20 units or whatever, or even a duplex, I want to buy another one, and I want my tenants happy. I want everybody and the community or the neighbor, I want to know where is my investment. And that's what I was thinking the other day, and that's what I want to just say. Maybe somebody can pick up on that or say something about that. I don't know. What do you think about it?
Yeah, Louis, happiness is relative.
What you say?
Yeah.
Happiness is relative. Because,
but that's what I'm saying, because, David, and I talk to you a lot too, but I'm saying if you put your money and you want to do investment, You want everybody happy, and you, of course, you want your money back, but also it's about another things that I never saw. We're looking for the money. I understand that. But what about the other things that are around it, you know? So it's important what you're saying, the location, be more specific. The more specific you are, the better. But also I think you have to be very experienced and about how you're gonna manage the place. That's a thing that I was looking at, you know, I mean, go and get the rent from a tenant, and here in California it's difficult, you know? So you have to be very knowledgeable. And that's why also I call you David. I call you David, I talk to you, Ed. Where are you gonna put your money? What is gonna happen tomorrow? We don't know.
Yeah,
We don't
well,
know what is gonna happen, you know?
yeah, one thing that is happening right now in the state of Texas is in 2022, because of the property values, especially in the city of Austin, have gone up so much, the property taxes are going to increase by 3 or 4 times. And there's going to be a lot of people unhappy, and they may sell because the property taxes are so high. They can't even afford that anymore. So you got to be very careful. Like I mentioned before, you got to really be careful about the area and what the what the politicians are doing and how they're helping people. That's a very important factor. If you buy something right now, you may consider that you're going to pay a certain amount of money for taxes, but next year when you get the bill, you're going to be surprised. So you got to be very careful in that. And as far as what you're saying, Louis, you got to choose your market. You got to choose your demographic. You got to see, okay, who do you want to deal with? Do you want to deal with lower income, mid income, or high income? So the people who actually are lower income, their expectations are a lot less than people who are in the mid income or high income. So that has been my experience. They don't have that expectation, the low income, for everything to be perfect.
I just put my camera on. So I'm doing laundry. So it's like, no, you're totally right. You're totally right. And one of the things that, and again, that's why I was asking Ed for a duplex or whatever. I think the simulation or the exercise you do with this on paper, and later on you take a building or a property, whatever you wanna think of investing, later on follow through. There is here, I think it was 12 units next to my building. In the pandemic was sold for 5.5. I just look at it and see their prices, they're a little weird, but it's already 6.5, less than 1 year and a half. 6.5 is the same value of the 12 units here. Yeah, if I want, my mother says all the time, buy expensive, are you gonna sell expensive? If I want to buy a duplex in East LA that everybody says, yeah, I can afford that, I can get the loan, whatever, it's East LA. It's LA, man. It's like, I want to buy in Redondo. Even if I have to put 10 people put in 200,000, I get a piece, but I buy in Redondo. That place is going to sell forever.
Absolutely. Location means a lot. So.
No, but that's what geographically or the location and the neighborhood, and that's what was my point. And also the tenants, about talking to the people who's living there. I think I never thought about that before when we were doing this every Thursday. I was looking at the numbers, just the numbers. Oh, this place is going to give me that amount of cash flow. Oh, it's going to be a great business, and also it's politics. So it's very difficult. It's very difficult. I think it's very difficult to invest in a way that is secure, and everybody wants that. Of course, you want the highest return with the less, risk as possible. I want to turn
Well
off my
said.
camera.
So let's get back to the book a little bit here. There's a couple things that I wanted to point out. On page 182, this little chart here, page 182, Gary's talking about being in the middle of the market. And what does he mean by that? He means that there's a sweet spot. If you look at price point, right, low end properties versus high end properties, there's a sweet spot in the middle where we get the best appreciation, right? Because those are the most in demand. So when they're in the most demand, they generally have the most appreciation. They have really good cash flow. Generally, the lower end property, the better the cash flow. But if you get too low, then you start getting more hassles and lower appreciation and lower liquidity. Because if you have a place that's just a complete dump, it can be tougher to unload if you need to liquidate it. So he's saying, his advice is to stay in the middle of the market. If anything, be a little bit on the lower end, is what he's saying, where you find great deals. I personally, I like that. I like that advice of being in the middle of the market. What do you guys think?
I like it.
What else?
Yeah, well,
Can you
it
explain that a little
depends.
more? What does it mean? What does it mean middle in the market? Not high, not low? What do you mean by
Yeah,
that?
you don't want to buy the best property in your town, and you don't want to buy places that are
Okay.
a complete dump either. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Thanks.
So like, average price property. So, if you're in a suburb neighborhood, that's a latchkey neighborhood for people who are, commuting into a nearby city, you'd probably want to find something that's 3-bedroom, 2-bath minimum, that'll house a family and, meeting the demographics is that. You don't necessarily, for example, I'll give you a clear example. Like if I was going to buy in Henderson, Nevada, which I'm looking at, I wouldn't want to buy the worst neighborhood in the area. But I also, JT was describing those beautiful places that are up on the hill that they rent out for a lot. And I was thinking, you know what? I don't think I'd want to buy one of those either, because that could dry up really quick. There's not a whole big lot of demand for places that rent out for $10,000 a month or whatever, where I know if I buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, I know that thing is always going to be rented. I will never have a problem. And if I need to sell it, I will always be able to sell it if it's, or at least have the best chance of it, much less chance of ever getting stuck with a property I can't unload than if I have one of the really high end or really low end properties. And it'll still appreciate well. And the middle of the market tends to have, not as many problems as the very high end who expect they want you to fix everything every 5 minutes, or the low end property that has problems for different reasons, right?
Okay, but I have a question on that. I want to put my camera again. Hey, it's on loop. So I have a question. So how are you going to know that which one is the best? Let's say Texas, or say whatever, Northern Carolina, whatever. How are you going to know where is going to be the best neighborhood or the best city? I know here Redondo because I live here 15 years. If I go to Texas, how am I going to know that? So that's what I was trying to point out. Is you think, oh yeah, if I get out of the city, it's going to be good. But how you think that it's going to be because of the cap rate of the building or the investment you're doing, and is that what is giving you back? Or how are you going to know if I invest in this property, not this one? Of course, we're in LA, we say Redondo. Oh, very clear, Redondo. People here have a lot of money, kind of. In East LA, people are they have less income. If I go to Texas, how are you going to know that?
Okay, so
Where is
great
study
question.
about that?
I understand what you're saying. What I would say is so how do you know what part of Texas? How do I know what part of Henderson, Nevada? I don't know Henderson from hell. That's why I brought JT in, so he could help tell us we start by just, when I first looked at Henderson, I just crunched some numbers just to kind of get an idea of what kind of numbers are we dealing with, right? So I picked out a few properties at complete random and ran the numbers on them to see I wonder how the numbers work in Henderson, Nevada. I picked I probably ran the numbers on about 10 properties just because I figured, hey, if I do 10, I'll probably get if I pick different neighborhoods and I pick 10 average properties, and then I just went on Zillow and looked at, all right, in that area, in that neighborhood over there, what's a middle of the road property in that neighborhood? And I crunched the numbers on that one. Then I picked out another neighborhood and I was like, okay, in that neighborhood, what's kind of a middle of the road? And I crunched the numbers. That was just a first pass at what am I dealing with? Just to have an idea. Is this are things generally pretty profitable in this area, or are they not? And then once I do that, then I want to start talking to some local experts, particularly a good real estate agent. Man, nothing can beat it, as you guys all know, right? If someone wants to know what's the best neighborhood in Redondo, they could call one of us here and we would know exactly, we would find out exactly what they're looking for and be able to help guide them in exactly like the exact right part of town, right? So that's you can't underestimate the power of having some people there to help you navigate that. You'd be crazy to do it on your own without having some help to help you figure that stuff out. But yeah, that's how I would do that is find some local experts to help you navigate that, because it would be really hard to know without living there for a while.
Yeah, because otherwise you look at the rent that you pay, or it's difficult. One of the things, you guys know that I'm a really big fan of Grant Cardone. I think he's over the top. But one of the things he did in a seminar, he asked all the people who were going to invest with him and was bringing deals to him. He said, if there is a Starbucks next to that property, if there is a Whole Foods next to that property, I thought that is very interesting how a guy who has millions can just now relate to those two things. That was the question that he did to every single investor. So that's why I was asking you if you know how to get more like or a study or something that we can get, because asking people, I do believe that it's just your opinion, A real estate agent, I understand that, but there's no a way of like getting information or I don't know. I don't want to say an app, but something that we can relate to what we're looking for, or it doesn't exist in order to get, to make sure what you're saying, if this is a good neighbor, how much is the rent, how much is the cap rate. I mean, you get all that information, but there is nothing that can guide you to say, go this, whatever you're looking for at the end. If you can go middle or you can go super high. I want to go buy expensive all the time. That's my point of view. But maybe you have another one, but there is no statistics or information that we have available.
Luis, if I can hop in.
Of course, man. Of course.
What I think is, I usually assume it's a good guide, is you can search crime rates throughout counties or cities. You can also search the top performing schools too. So once you narrow it down to a general area before contacting or reaching out to a local expert, I think checking the crime rates and then checking the best performing schools, those are also some pretty good measures. And then you can look for the Whole Foods and see where there's a Starbucks or whatever it may be. But yeah, and I know investors will have, they'll refer to an A-class neighborhood, a B-class neighborhood, a C or a D-class. And so I'm guessing it's kind of common knowledge amongst investors who are pretty familiar with the ratings. But yeah, that's another general kind of framework where if you call somebody or reach out, you can let them know, hey, I'm looking for something in a C-class neighborhood or a B-class area that's gonna, be within whatever price range.
Oh man,
That's
thank you so much. Great.
That's a great advice, Miguel. I'll say too that the other thing is, whenever I would buy a property, I would never buy it unless I at least, traveled to the town, spent at least a weekend there and explored around different neighborhoods. That's part of why I liked Henderson, because I was there with my kid for 4 days. So I had a chance, and whenever he wasn't playing, I was driving around neighborhoods because I was just really curious. So I got to know it somewhat. And yeah, like you're saying, you get a vibe of it because there were a lot of Starbucks in that neighborhood, and there was a Whole Foods nearby, and you could tell like there was a bunch of new stuff that had been developed pretty recently. There was the stuff you kind of look for in nicer neighborhoods. There was a cheesecake factory and newer construction. The streets were clean. They had nice parks that were well laid out. That's what I saw. But again, that's buying residential in a foreign town. If you're looking for commercial, it may not be as big of a deal, right? So
let me add to something really brief what happens in my country. If you want to buy a house that is 5 million, you go to the most expensive neighborhood, or you want to invest, whatever you want to say. People don't want to buy those houses anymore because the thief and the delinquency is so high in those expensive houses that people are not going to go there anymore. So what you're saying now, Ed, is to buy just a normal house. People don't want to have Mercedes anymore. They want to have a Toyota, so they don't get, a thief in their face every day. So that happens in my country. You don't want to, I don't think that it happens in the United States. I think Redondo here, not even the cops stops you for nothing, So I just want to point that out that in my country it's
Yeah.
different. So that's why I just want to say that comment.
Anybody else want to comment on that?
I'm just kind of curious.
Sure,
what-
David. Yeah, I have a comment on that, Louis. It's with investing, it's never a straight line. And if you think your first deal, you're gonna make no mistakes, you are completely wrong. You're gonna make mistakes. Every time you make any deals, you learn from it. You just learn from your mistakes and you move forward. That's the key, to really get into it and actually do it, and then find out what happened and make correction as you go. And as they say, that all the dogs on the road, the dogs are never in a row. You can never get all the dogs in a row. They're just basically everything is on a jagged line. There's no straight line. So you learn, you move forward. You learn, you move forward. If you think that you're gonna get the best deal and the best property at the first time, it's probably not gonna happen.
I'm gonna call you though. I called you before.
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
call you for sure.
Right. So, yes, Grant Cardone is right. There's so many ways of doing this, but you gotta first take the baby steps and do the first deal first and then learn from it.
Great, thank you so much.
So good stuff, you guys. So I don't like reading from the book because I figure we should all be reading the book, and I'm not here to read the book to you. But however, let me point out this one, because Luis was talking a lot about this. This is what Gary says about why to buy in the middle of the market. This is from page 182. He says, in the final analysis, it's best to build your economic criteria toward the middle of the market. The chart just below shows how the four broad factors, cash flow, appreciation, hassle, and liquidity, tend to work at various price points. Our research shows that the best combination of these four factors, the sweet spot, if you will, lies on the low end of the middle of any market. That's where the great deals are found and made. Cash flow can be best at the low end of the market, but these properties can represent the most work for investors, don't tend to appreciate as well, and aren't as liquid. High-end properties tend to appreciate well, but their cash flow is usually the worst. It takes longer to sell them, and so their liquidity factor is low. And because of the expectations of typical higher-end renters and buyers, they can represent a hassle for the investor. Especially in the beginning, we'd advise taking the solid cash flow, strong appreciation, and low hassle offered by mid-market properties. It's about identifying these, quote, bread and butter properties in your chosen location. There you go. That's how Gary describes it. So good stuff, you guys. I encourage you to read that section. So we were talking about page 171. Today we just covered 171 through page 191. If you haven't already read it, I recommend reading it. And then next week we're going to talk about who can help me find it, which I thought was actually something that I've invested in a bunch of properties and I've never really done much of that at all. And it was really interesting to see. I don't know. I want you guys to read it because I want to see what you guys think of it. Because it's not something that if I have a weak spot in investing right now, that's probably my weakest spot. Is I'm not good at building up a network of people to help me in these endeavors. And that's a lot about how to do that. So again, read that section 171 to 191, and then beyond it, that question 2. We'll go over question 2 and question 3 next week, and we will analyze another property again. Hopefully one of you guys will, who wants to volunteer to analyze a property and bring it next week? I'm gonna start making it a requirement to attend the class.
I don't mind doing that, Ed.
All right, Miguel, you are on the hook. I'm putting you down. You are gonna analyze any property you want. Use the same spreadsheet that we've been using to analyze it. And then let's take a look at it next week and let's see what you come up with, and we'll all learn from you. Sound good?
Sounds good.
So you can pick anywhere in America. You can pick and tell us what you learned about. If you want to pick another town, great. Tell us if you know anything about that town and what the laws are or whatever. That's great too. have some fun with it. Teach us about that area if you want. Man. That'd be super cool.
Outside of California.
No, or it could be in LA County.
Anywhere.
No, well, by
Anywhere,
choice,
it
by
can-
choice. I'm not looking at RPV or Manhattan Redondo. But
You
yeah,
could
no,
if you
no,
want.
that would make sense.
No,
At least
but
for
you
me.
could if you wanted to. If you want to find something in Manhattan, and we'll look at it because for some investors, by the way, Manhattan Beach is wonderful. It's just not for me, not for what I want to do. It just doesn't. I couldn't afford it anyways. But even if I could, it's not what I wanted. It's not where I want to go with where I'm at right now. I'm far more interested in cash flow right now than I am in appreciation rate.
Yeah,
Ed,
definitely.
I think, I'm sorry, Miguel, I think what Ed's saying is, to be, you could hypothetical or realistic, as far as, am I right? Or you talking about?
Yeah. Literally pick out anywhere in the US you want and tell us, maybe it's a horrible investment and you can tell us, hey, here's why I would not recommend investing in whatever, in Palmdale. Seriously, like somebody check out Palm Springs or something. I have no idea if that's a good investment, some of these places. And it would just be cool for some of you guys to do some research on it. If you even want to, you can even call up a realtor over there and see if he'd be willing to hop on our call with a bunch of investors and we'll set that up. That'd be super cool. That's part of my vision for like this group is for us to all take on the load of, doing research and educating each other. That's what we're aiming towards.
Sounds
So
good.
Miguel, you're first up to bat. It'll be fun to see what you come up with. And I'll look forward to seeing it next week, man.
I'm looking forward to it.
Sounds good, Miguel.
Thanks, Ed. Happy New Year's,
Hey,
everybody.
take care, you guys.
Have a good one.
And for,
Take
Thank
care.
you,
man.
Ed.
Ritu,
Happy New Year,
Ritu
everyone.
and Tamara, so good to have you guys here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll see you guys again.
See you next.
Thank you, Ed. Thank
week.
you, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.